Welcome to your passion, purpose, and personal brand. Video meetings are now a staple of the business diet. Zoom is a household world, and what we have is these Zoom meetings have brought our personal space into business. So during the pandemic, we noticed a shift where people were bringing their personal lives into almost everything that they had. It was their business meetings, it was their Zoom calls, and yes, it also happened on LinkedIn. So the flavor on LinkedIn changed, yet there were some professional expectations that were still to be met. And today I have a LinkedIn expert. I'm so excited to introduce you. She's going to help us unpack them, and she is a wealth of knowledge. Today we have Rachel Simon. She is the founder and CEO of Connect the Dots Digital. She helps B2B companies close more business by leveraging the power of LinkedIn. She works with both individuals and teams to position their authentic brand on LinkedIn so they can connect organically with their ideal clients, attract the best talent, and stand out as a leader in the industry. So Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I wore my LinkedIn blue. I didn't actually plan it, but then I realized I'm wearing the brand colors today.
That's right. That's very good. So, I think people don't understand the breadth of opportunity that we have on LinkedIn or even what it could do. So could we take a big picture start of looking at all the different functionalities that we can get from LinkedIn? And I'm talking about anything from if you're in job transition or you're trying to learn. So what are some of the things that we can do on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I like to kind of level set what the platform is. So if I'm doing a training or speaking to a group, I always want to kind of start by getting people to kind of reset their mind on what the function of LinkedIn is. LinkedIn is a networking and relationship building tool, period. So if you think about that as like that broad umbrella, then the different functions fall under that, whether you're looking for a job. Who hasn't? Majority of people will say they found their job through some connection, right? Mm-hmm. You have to be building a network, building relationships. Whether you are looking to be seen as an industry expert and a thought leader, you're doing business development, you're trying to attract talent, right? You're an organization looking to find people who want to come and work for you. All of that is going to fall under networking and relationship building. So it makes me sad, to be honest, when I talk to people and they're like, well, I don't really need LinkedIn because I'm not looking for a job. Mm-hmm. You need it. You need it all the time. You got to network all the time because you just never know what's going to happen. And why would you miss out on this opportunity to be constantly engaging and building relationships with people who could potentially be a door opener for you?
Yes, exactly. I'm in a networking group where we have some people that kind of travel through that are in job transition. And the one consistent thing that I hear when they first arrive is, I haven't been networking. So they join the group, right? And then the second thing they say is, and once I find my new position, I'm going to continue networking. But you and I know that takes an intentional decision. It's a plan on how to do it. So hopefully today, by the end of this conversation, that our listeners will be able to know a little bit more. I also want to feature, there's a lot of opportunities to learn on LinkedIn. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. If you think about your specific industry, what you do, your job function, or if you're a business owner, other people in your space, being able to learn from them, keep up with industry trends, just share intelligence. So, I'm very, very pleased to say that in the LinkedIn training space, now there's people who do what I do all over the world, and everyone has their own specific sort of point of view. Maybe they have a specific niche, but we, for the most part, have a community that is very collaborative, meaning we're not kind of gatekeeping the latest, news and updates. When something new is happening on the platform, we're sharing it amongst ourselves so that we can all help our clients use it in the best way possible. And so if you think about in your industry, who are those people that you can really share best practices with, ask, questions, help mentor, learn from, again, those industry thought leaders, and just like create a community within your specific area of focus.
And I love that because, when you have other people who do what you do, when you try to hold things back, nobody wins. But with that abundance mindset, I mean, if you look at how many people are working and if they need to be on LinkedIn, there is plenty of business to go around.
Plenty. And what if there's opportunities for collaboration, for partnership? Like, why would you want to shut the door on that? Because you're like, oh, I don't want to, what if they take my clients? Like, there's plenty. I love the idea of like you said, have an abundance mindset. There's more than enough to go around, share the wealth, and see what opportunities present themselves by being able to be more collaborative, versus sort of like closed off to that.
Yes. And I think too, we all know that some people will vibe with us and some people won't. So it's good to have some options in that. So
100%.
Before we
totally
get
agree.
I'm sorry. Before we get too far into that, could you tell us, when I talk with my clients, I talk about you need to be on the right social platform where your people are. So could you tell us who is on LinkedIn? Maybe numbers, or like who could we expect to find on LinkedIn?
Yeah. So as far as numbers are concerned, I don't know what the current numbers are, but like last year, LinkedIn did claim that they crested 1 billion users. Now, whether those are active or all real, it's hard to know. There are fake accounts out there and bots, but it is a very large population of people, and again, all over the world. As far as who's on there, I think most people are on there. Now, there might be some very niche B2C kind of businesses that it doesn't make sense, but B2B, 100%. If you are B2B and you're not on LinkedIn, what you doing? Why? Get on there. If you are B2C in certain areas, so what I'm seeing, some opportunity would be travel agents, realtors. I'm seeing more and more health coaches. So meaning, people that are not personal trainers, but people who maybe have like a group coaching program for certain, areas. Like one woman who I just connected with who is focused like in the hormonal menopause space. Now, she may not get a lot of engagement on her content because I'm not sure lots of people want to be like, yeah, my hormones are totally out of whack publicly, but she might be getting a lot of direct messaging because why I like to pull out those kinds of professionals, those more B2C, is that this is an audience who have money because they're, working professionals who are super busy because they're working professionals, and they need someone else to help them with these things. They need someone to plan their vacations. They need somebody who can help them buy or sell their home and can speak to with authority of being an expert on their industry. And then maybe they need some sort of, health coaches to keep them balanced and help keep, work-life balance functioning for them. So I think that there is opportunity for 99.9% of professionals on the platform. You just have to really know who you're trying to talk to and make, and speak to them specifically.
Yes. And that's really a good point, because if we're busy professionals and we need some of those B2C type solutions, we don't have time to go out and look for it. So when they show up in our feed, or we see something, or we see a post somebody else we are connected with has commented on, and it shows up, then that is a great opportunity because it's where people are, right?
Exactly, right. If you see somebody talking about a travel agent talking about how they can plan your next cruise for you, and you've had on your to-do list that you need to plan that family cruise, because you're having a family reunion at sea or whatever the case may be. And you're like, oh my God, when am I going to do this? Yeah. There you go.
Yep.
This person will do it for you.
Makes it easy. All right. So we're going to start where most people do, and that is looking at the individual profile. So a question I have is really, what can we do to improve our profiles to get more opportunities, or what are the most critical things we need to get right?
Yeah. So I always talk about how your profile is the foundation for everything that you do on LinkedIn. So in my presentations, I have a slide that I've created with like a house with, showing the foundation, and I've written, profile there, because if your foundation of your home is having a problem, it's leaking, it's got a crack, it's, you uncover some issue, you're going to fix it because you know that the stability of your home, the value of your home is dependent upon having a strong foundation. So the same thing applies on LinkedIn. Why would you build a strategy on the foundation of a weak profile? It just is not going to nearly be as effective. So profiles have to be optimized and complete. And there obviously are multiple components to a profile. It's not like creating an account on Instagram where you basically need like a 3-sentence bio and a picture. There's a lot that goes into it. So I recognize that it's not a plug and play kind of thing. But there's 5 components that are like, you got to have these 5. You've got to have good photos, a good profile picture, a great banner image. You need to have a really, really strong headline that really conveys what you're all about, the value proposition that you are bringing to your audience. You need a good about section written in the first person that is not talking about you, but it's talking about the problems that you solve for your target audience. Very well built out experience section, which is where you can kind of use some of your resume language, focused on outcomes, not responsibilities, and then your skills, because that is how we're being helped to be indexed for search. So if you have those 5 components, you're building a strong foundation, and then you can just add in those extra little pieces to make it all the more well-rounded.
Yeah. And I think that headline is particularly valuable because not only is it on your profile, but anytime you post or comment, or, when it shows up, when you've commented, it will have your headline there, right? It
or
follows
at least the
you.
beginning, right? At least the first 40 to 50 characters. Yeah. And yes, the headline is so, so important. And I always use myself as the example. If I made my headline CEO and founder of Connect the Dots Digital, well, what do I do? Do you even know what I do? I mean, my company name is just a bunch of words. I like it. I know why I chose it specifically, but it does not convey the problem that I solve. So I would never write a headline like that. And I always like to say, unless you're the CEO of Delta, because we know what the CEO of Delta does. We're here in Atlanta, so Delta, is like our go-to company. Unless you're the CEO of some really, really well-known organization, you got to do more for your headline. You need to focus on the problem that you solve, the value proposition, as opposed to your title.
Right. And the other thing I noted when you were talking about your job experience is not the responsibilities, but the outcomes. And what I love about that is when people are looking, they want to know what you were able to produce, not what you were expected to produce. Like what was it that you were able to deliver? So do you find a lot of people that's a big aha for them?
I think so. I think that, again, when you focus on those look, if you can quantify them, even better, right? Not every position is something that you can quantify with numbers, hard numbers. If you are in that role, 100%, you can say increase, sales revenue by whatever percent that is, grew following by whatever percent that is. I mean, quantifiable is really, really helpful, but being able to even say something of, now you can kind of mix them around too, right? Manage a team of 50 and, reduce the attrition rate by X percent, right? Like, meaning you're such a good manager that people did not want to leave.
Right. Really good point on that. And so do you help people with their LinkedIn profile? How does that work?
I do, yeah. So it's one of my core one-to-one services is I will work with professionals. I don't work with job seekers. I only work with sort of B2B professionals, or again, I would work with some of those like B2C, like I talked about, travel agents and whatnot, to help them write their profiles. So I have a whole system that I use, make it super easy for the client so that basically they just have to have a conversation with me. And then I will use the transcript of that to be able to pull out their story. And I do all the kind of heavy lifting. So write the headlines, write the about section, and kind of make sure that everything is complete top to bottom. So my clients are getting more than those 5 components that I talked about. They're getting everything.
Mm-hmm. And that's great, because I know having an outside set of eyes is so important, because we know what we want to promote, but we're not looking at it through the eyes of someone else who's looking at our profile. So that's incredibly valuable.
Yeah. And sometimes, a lot, actually not sometimes, more than not, people don't know how to talk about themselves. Again, here we're kind of conditioned, like I don't want to be braggy. I don't want to talk about myself. So they'll end up, just kind of pop in the top of their resume into their about section, or they will write it with like a lot of buzzy words, like hardworking, eager, team player, blah, blah, blah. Like, nobody cares about that. It is, what is the problem that you solve? How can you articulate the main issue that your target audience is having, so that they're like, oh my God, that's so me. That's me. Yeah. I need help with that. And then be able to show that you actually know how to solve it.
Right. And your profile is your personal brand. You're trying to attract people to you and bring it in the magnet. So I'm going to go on, and this has been a bit of a controversial question over the past. Well, it always has, but I think particularly more so now, is LinkedIn Premium is really something that LinkedIn pushes, promotes. And when people first get on LinkedIn, it's I'm going to have to pay for this. So is it worth it? Who needs to get that?
Yeah, you said that nicely, that they promote. I would say that they more kind of like, do you want it? Do you want it? You should have it. You really, come on, premium. Like, they're like, won't leave you alone.
Yes.
LinkedIn Premium, it's like a yes and no. It all is going to depend on what your goals are. There are certain functions that LinkedIn Premium opens up that are very helpful, such as the ability to personalize all of your connection requests, which I'm a big proponent of. The free version, you can only personalize like 5 to 10 a month, which I think that's a change that came about towards the end of last year. And I think that was a really bad move personally. It also lets you see who's viewed your profile, which can be extremely helpful, particularly if you're been doing more, if you're working to create more content. It can be helpful to see, well, I'm posting this content. Are the right people actually coming to my profile? And am I hitting my target audience? With the free account, you can only see like the last 5 people who viewed your profile versus like 90 to the whole year. There are some workarounds to getting some premium features. So again, I'm not familiar with the current pricing on everything. I use Sales Navigator. So like Sales Navigator is like the top of the top. And I would say that if you're doing any significant prospecting, depending upon the value of a new client for you, it's probably worth it. If the value of a client for you is anywhere over 15 $100, it's going to pay for itself with one client. It's like $100 a month.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, it's a much more dynamic, like search function. There's a lot of real positives to Sales Navigator, but for people who are considering like, oh, I really don't want to spend, I think premium's like maybe $60 a month. I'm not totally sure. There is, I would check out LinkedIn Learning. So LinkedIn Learning is like a little sneaky way to get about a good chunk of the premium features. Like I think you get to view who's viewed your profile for like 90 days as opposed to 365 days. But that's more than enough time to go back. And it's a less of an investment. And I also believe that if you have a library card, you actually might be able to get it for free through your library card. Not 100% sure on that. I need to do some research on my end, but I have seen some people talking about that. So it's a toughie. I mean, I'd say if you can upgrade, I would do it because I do think there's a big value in the connection request piece. And I really like to see who's viewed my profile.
Yes, I enjoy both of those. And what really pushed me was to that little hot link that you can put underneath your name of visit my website or check out my portfolio. Like that is a fast track into where you want people to go if you want to, if you're on LinkedIn for that purpose.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. So as I'm looking at, you mentioned connections, right? Writing those personal notes. So how do we know who we need to be connecting with? Do you have a rule of thumb?
It's so subjective. So I always kind of say, look, you got to do what feels right to you. So some people will literally connect with anybody. Now, I don't personally understand that because I am in the philosophy of like, I want to make sure that I'm connecting with the right people versus, look, there's a lot of ego going around on LinkedIn, and there are a lot of people out there that are like, want to brag on how many people they are connected to. And I'm not so interested in that. If I see somebody that puts the number of connections they have in their headline, that tells me a lot about that person. And if that's you, I'm sorry, but like,
it's not, it's not,
or your listener. Yeah. But, it is not, who cares? Who cares? Like, so you have 30,000 connections, but are they the right people? What if 25,000 of them are just random people that are never, ever going to do business with you? Right. So I think that there's a way to be, and then there's people on the other extreme that will only want to connect with people that they've actually met or engaged with in the real world. And I think that's a little bit too narrow because you just, you don't know who knows somebody that can be valuable. So I think it is somewhere in that middle point that works for you. And like, who are the kind of people that you're looking to connect with? And I'm talking more on the inbound one, the connection requests that you receive. Some of the things that I use are like, I will generally connect with people in Atlanta, depending on what they do. I live here. I've lived here for 25 plus years. I get a lot of my business is local here. So it's good for me to build a local network. If people are in a sales or marketing function, depending on the kind of business they do, I will generally connect with them. Depending on in North America, I don't do as much like global connections. It just depends on the person and where they're located. Again, because I don't take clients from around the world. All of my clients are usually from US and Canada. So kind of what are those parameters for you in your industry? If you're a CPA in Cleveland, Ohio, and all of your clients are local, do you need to connect with people in Southeast Asia?
Right.
Probably not.
That's right. That's right. And I think the other part of it is when you do those connections, it's not only do they look like a good prospect or someone you might do business with, but do they know people? So they can become part of your sales team. So someone says, hey, I'm looking for someone, I've got to update my LinkedIn profile. And they're like, oh, I'm connected with Rachel Simon. Let me introduce you to her, right? So I think we also have to think of that.
You can think of that. And also, look, connect with people that you like. I mean, if you like them and you think they have interesting content and you just feel like they're kind of a cool person, connect with them. I mean, this is your platform. It's just more of, I just don't agree with connect with everybody who.
Yes.
I would be at 30,000 connections 5 years ago if I had that philosophy. It's just, I think it's a less is more kind of approach, better to have the right people than just the most people.
Yes. No, I think that's good. So when we're talking about connections, I think you know where I'm going next. So I decide, I want to connect with this person. I think I will. So I'll push accept. And then what happens in my DMs often?
You're getting pitched.
I'm going to get pitched. Any advice on how to handle that?
So one is when you get those, did you have an instinct that was going to happen? Is there like a clue in their profile that might be where this is going? Usually there is. So somebody that I'm connected to had put a post up about this, and she's like, how do I stop this from happening? And I'm like, these are the words that I avoid: lead generation, appointment setting. What's the other one? Like fill my calendar, anything like that. Anyone that's that is a virtual VA. Again, nothing against virtual VAs, but like if I need a VA, I will ask my network or ask people who I know have worked with VAs for a referral, because most likely somebody coming to me wants me to work with them. So, but the lead gen ones, those are hard pass for me. I would never accept those because I know that I'm going to hit yes and they're going to pitch me immediately. When other people sneak in and do that, I will usually disconnect from them. I'm just not interested. Sometimes I'll try to have a back and forth, and I've done that a few times. Like, this is really not the best approach. I had a whole back and forth a few years ago with a financial planner guy, and I was like, he's like, well, I've gotten business this way, and I'm like, but so you got one. Maybe you got one new client. Sorry, my dog. But you pissed off 99 people, or you made a bad impression with 99 people. Well, what happens if one of those 99 people next year needs financial planner? They're going to remember the interaction they had with you and be like, I don't want to work with that guy. So you should feel empowered to disconnect from those people if you get pitched immediately. Or again, you can kind of have a little fun with them.
Yeah. Because they started it, right?
They started it. I've had one time, oh my God, one time, I wish I still had this message somewhere. I connected with this person. She sent me a connection request. I accepted it. And I got a message, I'm not joking, was like this long, that had a big blurb about her, a link to her website, another blurb about something with a link to a blog, and then another blurb with a link to her calendar. And I was like, seriously?
You had the whole suite. You had everything you needed.
Do not send unsolicited links ever in a first message. Right. No.
Mm-mm. That's really, really good advice. Yeah, you had everything. I had someone that wanted to connect with me, and he kept coming. I think he was in insurance. And finally I just said, I'm intrigued. What prompted you to want to connect with me? Well, then he said, well, I listened to your podcast. And then I felt really bad because, okay, yes. Well, yes.
But why wouldn't he just start with that?
Yes,
Hey, Lisa, I loved your podcast. I'd love to connect with
exactly.
you.
Yes,
That
I
is
would have
so much of
immediately.
that's so much of a better way to start that conversation, because then you would have gotten that message and said, awesome, it's a fan, yay. And said, hey, which episode did you listen to? What was, what stood out to you?
Mhm.
And then that starts a conversation, as opposed to, why does this guy want to talk to me?
Right. Yes, exactly. And I think, Rachel, you bring up this really great point. Is if this is a networking event, how would you walk into the networking event? Would you shake someone's hand and give them your website and your whole spiel? Like, would you do that? No, you have
Small
banter.
talk.
Small talk. You get interested in the other person.
Yes,
This is
yes,
no different.
exactly. And I keep going to, like, I always say, I feel like Forrest Gump, right? With my lines here. But if it would be awkward in person, it's awkward on LinkedIn. So any of those, like, if you have a weird interaction on LinkedIn, just in your mind, move that to what it would be like if you were at a
Mhm.
networking event. It would be like 10 times more awkward if somebody
Yes.
just walked up to you and was like, hi, I'm Rachel. Here's my card. I do blah, 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 blah. And you're like, hello.
Right. Right.
Like, we don't engage like that. We have small talk. Oh, hey, aren't you glad it's fall? Have you, like, who's your favorite college football team? Whatever. I
Yep.
mean, how long have you been to these events before? I mean, just start with the chit chat and then get into the business.
Right, exactly. And it makes it much smoother. So, okay, so we've got our profile, we've made our connection request. Now it's our chance to kind of jump into the game. So, what's a good way for people who have not been on the platform to start, who may be a little unsure of what do I do?
With content, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, or even how to, all these people are posting content. Like, do I post content?
Okay.
What are my expectations? Is
Yeah.
it reading, engaging? What, that's where I'm going.
Okay. So I think for people who are, like, wanting to build habits on LinkedIn, a good way to start is by, first of all, committing to go to the platform.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're going on your desktop or you're using the mobile app, but every day, make sure that you're looking, checking your notifications, responding to anything you need to respond to, looking through your connection requests, deciding if people are, yeses to you, or if people have accepted yours. So that's step one. If you're ready to kind of go deeper, a good place to start is by just dropping some comments a few times. Identify people who you like their content. Maybe they're in your target market. Maybe they are, again, in your more collaborators who do what you do. And just start commenting, and not like a great post or thanks. And please,
Yeah.
for the love of God, do not use these auto commenting AI platforms that are
No.
rolling out, because what is the point of those?
Mm-hmm.
So commenting is a great place to start. And then if you feel like you're ready for content, which everybody can do, I coach my clients to try to get one solid post up a week. So that's only 4 things a
Mm-hmm.
month. It's not that hard. You can come up with 4 ideas in a month. And in any month, there's always some outside something to talk about, right? Like in September, we can talk about September 11th was this week, right? Labor
Mm-hmm.
Day, college football, just the fall happening. People are probably excited that it's pumpkin spice everything season. I'm personally not, because I think pumpkin spice things are gross, but I know the whole world get really excited in the fall. So, it's mental health awareness month, suicide
Mm-hmm.
prevention month. So there's always something happening in any given month that you could be talking about. And I talk about identifying, I call them content buckets. So what are those big topics
Mm-hmm.
that you can talk about? And then you can break those bigger topics into smaller components. And that's where you can get content ideas from. But more likely, you actually have a lot of content at your disposal. You just actually need to use it.
Yes. And I find too that content is so easy to come up with if you just notice what's happening in your day. Whether you have a conversation with someone, or maybe you see another post and you make a comment and it was a particularly insightful one. It gets a lot of engagement. You think, well, that did well there. Maybe I need to post it on, within my profile to be able to share it with more people. So there's a lot of opportunities for that.
Yes.
On there.
And, listening to, getting inspiration from just like your day-to-day calls when
Yes.
you are in conversation, whether it's a sales conversation or a team meeting, there's probably something that comes up in that you could pull out and talk about. So I was on a call with someone this week and he referred to LinkedIn as a business intelligence tool. And I was like, oh, I like that. And I have like Post-it notes everywhere. And I grabbed a little Post-it note and jotted that one down because I was like, I could write a post about that. Like, of course it's a business intelligence tool, but I hadn't heard someone articulate it in those words before. And I think that that's a good way of talking about it. So that was an inspiration from just a conversation that I had this week. You can pull out content from, client pain points, issues you've been having, right? I mean, there's content everywhere, like literally everywhere. You just have to actually open your eyes to it and then don't lose it. Like have some sort of place where you can jot down ideas, whether again, it's like random Post-it notes floating around your desk or the notes app on your phone or a Google Doc that you can just throw ideas into. But don't let it sit in your head because most likely you'll lose it because, we have too many things floating around in our brain at any given time.
And that's a guarantee you will lose it. I did that the other day. I thought, oh, this is so great. And by the time I was out of bed and got to the mirror and looked in the mirror, I thought, what was that? Right. So have a place to
exactly.
This.
I have had that happen where I'm like literally writing the most brilliant post in my head at, 11 o'clock at night while I'm falling asleep. And then I'm like, please don't leave. And it's gone in the morning.
It definitely is. So we're talking about posting. Is there a particular type of post format that works? Should we use images, text only, carousels, polls? What's your observation on what's working now?
Everyone has been saying video is working great. I did a video this week. It was fine. It wasn't anything like exceptional. I think that you should do the content that you find to be easy. So don't overthink it. If you're an Instagram person and you like to express yourself through visual means, meaning photos and videos, then translate that to LinkedIn. It just has to kind of be molded a little bit to what works on LinkedIn. Like you can't just plop your Instagram post on there because usually there's way too many hashtags. If you are more of a comfortable writer, then do text. Don't put a picture because somebody says you have to have a picture to trigger the algorithm. Put a picture because it actually makes sense with what you're talking about. It has to, putting it there just for the sake of, because someone says blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
I just saw a post this morning about, about the algorithm, and the person writing in the post was like, you can't hack it. Just show up, put in the work, be consistent, have the right audience, be a good person, meaning like you're engaging with people, and you will meet your goals. But like to try to, write your content and, it's got to be written in just this specific way at this specific time, or else the algorithm isn't going to like it. Like this algorithm changes constantly. So you could be chasing it and you're never going to catch it. I was like,
No.
slow and steady wins the race. Just keep on trucking.
Yes. And quality content, quality
Yes.
content, not garbage. Quality content people want to read.
Quality where you are trying to engage people in a conversation. So you have some sort of question or call to action. It's not self-promotional. It's not talking about how great you are. It's not, you do have to have some content, especially if you're a business owner that is selling, but it can't be all your content. Every single content piece cannot be like, work with me, work with me, work with me. Because, so quality is so important because there's some real bad content out there.
There is. So Rachel, we've got our profile. We've decided that we, are commenting. We may go ahead and find some content and we start posting at least once a week. So now it's time for us to start networking on LinkedIn. What does that look like?
So it kind of, when I'm talking about like what a strategy looks like, I kind of envision it like a pyramid, right? So profile is the foundation, and actually network is like sits on top of that. So as we're building our network, right, we're getting inbound and we're potentially sending connection requests because as we're more active, we're seeing new people. New people might be engaging with our content. But the other thing that a lot of people don't really know is who's in your current network, who's in there. Right. So LinkedIn's 21 years old. I joined in 2011. And, so there's people that I connected with when I first joined that I'm definitely going to have forgotten about, right? LinkedIn is only showing us like a subset of our overall network at any given time. And so you can actually download your network into a spreadsheet and review it. And what you will generally find when you go through this exercise is two things. You'll discover what I call hidden gems. So those would be people who you already have in your network who are potential business targets, whether they are a potential customer or referral partner, door opener, whatever the case may be. I could have connected with Joe in 2012 and Joe was working at this company. And now Joe works at this company. And, I've been actually trying to get my foot in the door over at this company. I had no idea Joe worked there. Hey, Joe, how's it going? It's been ages since we talked. What's new with you? Yeah, you're already connected to that person. You just send them a message and try to get that conversation moving forward. So you'll identify those hidden gems, or you'll identify that my current network is not really comprised of my target audience, and I need to be doing some more strategic network building in that area. That is especially common with people who pivoted industries. So if you started your career in this industry and you built a big network in this industry, and now you're working in some completely different industry, you may have kind of a lopsided network. Now, there's no need to disconnect from anybody. That's a waste of time and energy. You just need to increase the people in your network who are in your current industry.
All right. Well, very good. So many great tips. I love especially that downloading your connection list and taking a look at that. So Rachel, I know you've got a free resource for our listeners. Do you want to share that with us?
Sure. I have I call it a LinkedIn scorecard. So you can just answer some fun little questions. Everyone likes to get a score, and it will give you sort of like a breakdown of where your current strategy sits and where you have some improvement opportunities. I think it just takes like 2 to 3 minutes. So that's a fun little tool to see how you do. And, nobody's going to fail. So don't worry, y'all. It's okay.
All right. I'll be interested in checking that out. And if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to contact you?
Please connect with me on LinkedIn. If you are able to add a note in a connection request, just say that you found me through this show. And I'd be happy to connect with everybody. And then you can see all the fun stuff I talk about, which is kind of random all over the place, but lots of LinkedIn tips.
Yeah, lots of LinkedIn tips. I get your emails, so I'm always looking at, what's going on this month? What could I post about? So yeah, you do offer a lot of value there. So Rachel, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. I know our listeners do too. And I want to ask, would you be interested in coming back maybe next week, where we could talk more about if you're an employee of the business and how B2B actually works? Like, how do companies find people? Would you be willing to do that?
Oh, that would be awesome. I'd love that.
All right. Well, we'll get you back next week and go from that direction, because LinkedIn does have value for people in different positions, whether you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, or even an employee where you've got the boss watching what you're posting on LinkedIn, right? There's some things that we want to go and get into there. So we'll be talking about that next week. So thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So my big takeaway is that LinkedIn has an enormous potential as a business platform. Whether learning what's going on in your industry or trying to develop strategic partnerships and finding new business, there's a wealth of knowledge that you can take away. I've discovered enormous benefits from this platform. One of them is meeting people like Rachel. I met Rachel through someone else that was a connection, and Rachel's right here in Atlanta with me. So I've been able to connect with her and seen her at a couple in-person events. So that has been a great benefit, but you just don't know who you're going to meet here. But I want you to encourage you to try it. And if you aren't on LinkedIn, just even get in and see what's going on there. You can follow Rachel for more LinkedIn tips, as she said, and you can follow me for more insights on topics that I discuss here. And I also have a quiz. If you haven't heard about it, it's called the Reimagine You quiz to determine the style for the next path you're going to take to get to the next level of you. And you can get that link in the show notes, as well as Rachel's resources too. So join us here next week. It looks like Rachel will be back to speak more about the nuances of being on LinkedIn as an employee, which is really important, and what to do with that B2B activity. So until then, go chase your passion. It will reveal your purpose, and it will help you take the journey to your legendary self. We'll see you here next week.